This is the story about a chance encounter with a Minnesota backroads treasure. The abandoned Phillips farmhouse. Sometimes when you travel the country roads of Minnesota, you come across a diamond in the rough. Often these spots are covered in dense vegetation, making it nearly impossible to see what is there. If you stop and take a closer look, it is amazing what you can find. This was how I found this beautiful old house near the Minnesota River in southern Minnesota. The house is located in Sharon Township, near Ottawa, Minnesota. After doing some digging, it turns out this house is rich in Minnesota history, especially for Sueur County. A book was even written, way back in 1895, about the settlers in this area. The book notes that a Welsh settlement was established between Sharon and Cleveland, which was called the Big Woods, or Sueur Settlement. These Welsh settlers were very religious, and they established several churches in the area. As for homes, building materials were readily available to these settlers. Brickyards were fairly common along the Minnesota River, and some of them produced an orangish-brown colored brick. Building stone was also common along the Minnesota River in this area. It later became known as Kasota stone, and it was a light tan color. This is a rough schematic of the house, starting with the ground floor. The original portions of the house were made of stone. Sometime later, a brick addition was built onto the original house. As for design features, the brick addition had a nice front porch. There were several entrances to both sections of the house. Multiple windows were built, and each window is denoted by a gray rectangle. There was a stone stairway on the north side of the original house, leading to the basement, or cellar. Inside the stone house, there was a stairway that went to the second floor, or half story. The basement cellar was as large as the entire ground floor of the original house. It was likely used for food or extra storage. Both the original house and the add-on portion had second floors, or half stories. Most of this space was likely used as bedrooms. Let's explore this house a little further. In the 1860s and 1870s, many people from Wales came to the United States, and some of these to Minnesota. Wales was a part of the United Kingdom. In 1872, Phillip and Ann Phillips and their 3 children, John, Elizabeth, and Mary, made the trek to Minnesota. They were following their friend and Welsh pastor, the Reverend Richard Hughes, who was very enthusiastic about his new country. In Minnesota, they settled in Sueur County. As mentioned before, they were part of a Welsh settlement, which was located in Sharon Township. They became members of the Elam Church, less than half a mile from their home. The Elam Church started out as a log church, as the settlement was located in the big woods of Minnesota. By 1898, Phillip and Ann owned several parcels of land, but their farmstead was in Section 19, Sharon Township. They were not the original owners of the stone house. This house was used as a shelter for women and children during the 1862 Sioux Uprising, while the men had gone to New Ulm. Both Phillip and Ann were born in Wales, Phillip in 1836 and Ann in 1847. There, they were married on June 29, 1867. They would go on to have 12 children, although one died fairly young. This is a 1951 aerial photo of the Phillips family farm. Although a little hard to see, the house is shown by the red square. There were a lot of other buildings on the farm, but none of these remain today. The family raised dairy cows and hauled their milk to the Le Sueur Creamery, which would have looked something like this creamery. The Phillips family was also deeply religious, with all the family members active in the Welsh Bible Society. In 1929, the Le Sueur News Herald ran a story about a group of 12 members who had studied the Bible together in Welsh since childhood. This group included Ann Phillips. The Welsh settlers were a close-knit society. Men and women were strongly encouraged to marry within the group. However, that became harder with time, and many of the eligible men and women remained unmarried, so their population declined. On June 29, 1917, Phillip and Ann celebrated their golden wedding anniversary. This is a photograph that was likely taken at this celebration, showing Phillip and Ann and their 11 children. By 1920, only David and Louis remained on the family farm. Phillip died in 1928, and Ann passed away in 1934. Neither David or Louis ever married, and when Ann passed away in 1934, David was 57 and Louis 50. With Ann's passing, neither David or Louis wanted to continue with farming. Therefore, the brothers held an auction sale on September 11th. In the auction, the brothers sold off their livestock, which included horses, cattle, and pigs. They also sold off their farm equipment and some household goods. However, they did not sell the family farm. After the sale, the brothers moved to the nearby community of Le Sueur, where they lived together. Louis passed away in 1965, and David in 1967. The Phillips family farmhouse still stands today, but continues to slowly decay. That concludes the video. Make sure to check out my other YouTube videos and my primary website at mnbricks.com.